Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Matt Watson. Hi, Matt.
What's going on, man?
You know, as we've gotten to know each other, I've often hear you commenting about my intelligence, especially when it comes to highly technical topics. So I've decided to recreate myself into a Matt bot and instead use artificial intelligence, which is actually what you hear right now.
Well, I think you definitely have AI, but that's artificially inflated intelligence.
Oh, is it like, oh, okay. I was going to say, or is that ego? Maybe just overall size. But, well, you know, the thing is as I went to really try to artificially intelligence myself, I realized that I should probably get a better grasp on what is artificial intelligence. Now, we're going to talk about that in a second, but what you don't need any amount of intelligence to do is go to fullscale.io, which is the sponsor of today's episode of Startup Hustle. It's a business that Matt and I own. We help businesses like yours build teams of programmers quickly and affordably.
And we do some things with AI.
We do.
We
So we're going to talk about that. I think that artificial intelligence on some levels is a little misunderstood. It has a lot of relationships with machine learning, and you know, the real question is you know, what is it? So since you're the developer, do you want to start, or do you want me to start? 'Cause
Yeah.
like I said, it's a broad topic too.
The first time I ever used what I will call artificial intelligence is probably, I would say, 10 years old. And there was an app, a game, or whatever you would want to call it, a piece of software that you could run where you could chat with the computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was probably not very smart, but you know, it would ask you questions.
You'd say like hello, and it'd say hello, how are you?
Yeah, and you would type responses, and then based on your response, it would ask you some other question or relevant question or whatever. And so, was that artificial intelligence? I guess so.
Well, but was it learning and improving over time?
No, probably not.
So that might not fit the definition,
Well,
the modern definition.
You know, I think it probably did a little bit where, based on your previous answers, that would steer its, you know, later things that it knew about you and questions. But, you know, most artificial intelligence is really a series of different kinds of algorithms and pattern matching. No matter how you look at it, it's really just kind of those things.
Which is machine learning as well in a lot of ways. Now,
yeah, and then you have what people will call like cognitive insights, machine learning, artificial intelligence. There's a bunch of different kind of descriptors and words for all these things. And so, you know, some of it is the cognitive side is usually things like voice recognition, video recognition, object recognition, right? Like the ability to look at a picture and it's a picture of a dog and know that it is a dog, and then knowing what kind of dog is it, and then maybe even guessing at how old the dog is, right?
Hot dog
or not hot dog. So all of those things are kind of cognitive computer vision kind of things. We use a lot of computer vision kind of things in our lives these days.
And we actually have an episode talking to Joel Tepley of Cambrian about that. And they developed some things for helping paint companies. If you've ever used an app that helps you determine what the paint looks like on your wall ahead of time, that's artificial intelligence. And all the things that you mentioned. So that's actually tapping into a neural network. What does that mean for the rest of us? It emulates what your brain does when your eyeballs work.
Yeah. And
is that a technical definition there?
And honestly, I don't know. I think I guess I could argue both ways. Is something like that actually artificial intelligence or not? It's more computer vision, cognitive stuff. It's not really intelligence, right? So, you know, I think of the intelligence side of it where the computer is like actually doing something smart.
Right.
You know,
so
not just like analyzing video or analyzing pictures, but I mean, I don't know how you
Well,
these things technically are.
I have a loose definition, and it's defined as theory and development where computer systems perform tasks that normally require human intelligence.
Okay.
In that particular case, it could be related to decision making.
Right.
Now, you talked about algorithms and patterns and stuff like that. When I think about AI, what it's doing is, and first off, to truly become intelligent, it has to look at a large sample space of actions and reactions, and then it is trained to trend towards one or the other based on what type of outcome the programmer might want it to take.
Yes, a lot of traditional machine learning, let's talk about machine learning, for example, is usually based on anomaly detection or pattern matching. Or so for example, at Stackify, we do application monitoring. So if we tracked how long a page on your website takes to load, and it always takes 3 seconds, and that's the normal, but then all of a sudden it takes 10 seconds, that's like an anomaly, right?
Bing, bing,
so
bing.
If we were using machine learning, we would be able to detect that all of a sudden it's not following a normal pattern, and that would be like your most basic example probably of machine learning.
Well, on a different tier with that, the machine learning could also, or the AI could also recognize that anomaly and then maybe increase its pattern of reviewing it,
how it reacts.
Yeah, so it could say, okay, I see this anomaly. Now I learned from that. This is a positive indicator there may be a problem, so I should go back and check this 10 more times as opposed to one more time over a given period and see if that is just an anomaly or if there could in fact be a problem, right?
Well, and so a good example of that kind of AI is things that play like a video game. Have you ever heard of where they use this to play like Super Mario Brothers, like the old school Nintendo? And really it's like the software has no idea what Super Mario Brothers is. It has no idea how to play the game. It just knows it can go up, down, left, right, jump, whatever, right?
And throw fireballs.
And so it just keeps doing those movements, and then it figures out, okay, it did this, and it dies, and it knows don't do that.
Right.
And then it does a different pattern, right? Yeah. And which is really cool because at the end of that, you get this thing that like either perfectly plays the game or wins the game in like the most random, dumbest way ever, but wins the game.
Right. So, but in order to do that, it plays that game a lot.
Yeah.
Like a whole lot.
Could be millions of times.
Right. Right. And that was the
trial
point
and error.
Is that large sample space of stuff. So,
but it figures out how to accomplish a hard problem.
Sure.
And that's what's cool about it is these algorithms can figure out how to solve a hard problem that otherwise humans would maybe never figure out.
Well, as people, our own thought processes become flawed immediately because there's like a whole series of biases and judgments that we make that aren't in many ways based on actual logic.
Well, and I die like 3 times in a minute and I'm done and I throw the controller across the room.
Yeah. See, the computer doesn't do that. It just starts another game.
It goes backwards instead of forwards and eventually figures out go backwards to win or something.
Yeah. Once again, if you are ever playing something like Call of Duty and you see the guy whose guy is just in the corner, running in the corner and jumping, you're probably playing with me.
A bad bot.
Yeah. So, AI often includes the learning, planning, and problem solving parts of this. And, like Matt had mentioned, it's that patternistic view and recognizing patterns. And some of that is really popular for use with things like process automation. And, we've had a lot of guests in here that do a lot of different things, but, certain once you know your business, you understand that AI and machine learning can help you arrive at certain solutions faster and identify problems well before they're problems, over time. And once again, all these things require like a ton of instances to review. Like Matt was saying with the Super Marios, like they probably play that like a million times. Some of the things that I've always found interesting that in a way are AI and machine learning is when you see, okay, the Chiefs play the Niners in the Super Bowl and our computer simulation played this game a million times and this was the outcome. And much like Matt stated with Mario Brothers, it's like, okay, here's an example where Pat Mahomes doesn't even play.
Right.
Here's one where he goes off. Here's one where he doesn't. Here's one, and then it's playing a lot of fringe examples. The Final Four tournament's another another simulation that does a lot of stuff. So
yeah, ESPN even shows that on their website now. Like when the Chiefs were playing the Houston Texans,
the predictor,
and we were down by 24 points, it said that the Texans had a 99.9% chance of winning.
I sent you that screenshot, didn't I? And I was like, let's hope this isn't right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Normally that would be the case.
That was a huge anomaly. That was a huge anomaly to come back and win by 20 in that case. Like I was crying in my beer at that point. Tears and beers was the real thing.
So you talk about how this impacts companies and process automation and stuff like that. And I think one of the best use cases we see for this stuff is voice menu systems and bots. You know, like you call into your bank and it says, what do you want to do? And you're like, I want to check my balance. And it's able to understand your voice. It's able to automatically go query their database, get your balance, and say that to you, right? And so it's using text to speech and voice to speech and all those things. And replaces somebody who would otherwise be a human and work in a call center, potentially, right? There's a lot of different bots that are available that some are online bots. Things like Skype and Facebook and all these things now have, like in Facebook Messenger, there's different bots that you can pull in to, like, say, order pizza. Like, I want to order this pizza, and you type out what you want. And there's a bot that uses text recognition. It recognizes the word order, all those things,
and a whole bunch of stuff and iterations of it, including it not being spelled correctly.
I want a large pepperoni sent to my crib.
Yeah,
and it knows crib means house.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Which is really cool stuff. And there's a local company here that does this stuff for it's Pay It. Is doing a lot of this stuff for the government. I don't know if you renewed your tags to your car recently, but I did this in the state of Kansas. And you go on there, and it basically makes it look like a bot. It asks you, what do you want to do? Yeah. You can say, like, renew my driver's license, renew my tags, and then it sends it to you like Facebook Messenger sort of thing, like you're typing to a bot. And it's like, okay, what car do you want to renew? Please give me this information. It's like a question and answer sort of thing. It's like you're talking to a computer, but it's pretty cool and it works.
The thing I like about this stuff, all right, so what I think, and this is where AI often is misunderstood. So, because, science fiction movies are going to portray it as like robots that are acting like humans, but it's not a robot. It's, it's like you mentioned, it's algorithms.
Right.
And some of these things are way more sophisticated than others.
Yeah.
Now, there are some outspoken critics that think that AI needs to be managed carefully because, you look at the Terminator, which is the funny example. I don't know if it's funny, but is an example. Technically, the backstory of that is that artificial intelligence was used to do a whole lot of different stuff. We integrated it and everything. And then it realized it was programmed to take out anything that was a threat. And it achieved a level of intelligence that said humans are now the threat.
Yeah.
The Terminator, next thing you know, Skynet, it happened, maybe, who knows. Now, Elon Musk is one of those people that often is outspoken about the dangers of AI.
He thinks we live in the Matrix.
I don't know, man.
Maybe.
He might be smarter than me, so maybe. Now, but you know what? I don't actually mind his opinions on that because I think it's important for you. I just think in decision making, you got to look at any and every angle possible. Now, with the really powerful AI stuff, you have things like you look at, for example, these mega telescopes that. You look at the infinite number of stars that are out there. For a human to sit there and like do a whole bunch of different stuff and process all that data, impossible. Right. So they use AI to basically scan the galaxy, and they find in other galaxies, and they're looking for the planets that could potentially be Earth-like.
Well, and that's where a lot of the teaching the algorithms is important, right? You're like, hey, when A and B and C happens, that means X. That
means the likelihood of X is higher or lower.
And you keep telling it that. Yeah. And then you go tell it, okay, go scan every star. There's billions and billions of them, and look for every time you can find things that match A plus B plus C.
So, an example, and coming in to join us soon is Matt Moody of Bellwether. And he's been in, we did a machine learning episode with him, but what Bellwether does is look at the facts related to subscribers.
Yeah, and so they would be great for somebody like Stackify as an example. Yeah. We don't use Bellwether.
Maybe you should.
But for example, if we tracked like when do our customers log into our software, how much they use our software, all those sort of things, and look for signals in that sort of information, that creates patterns to know, like, okay, is this customer potentially going to cancel? Like they're not going to use our software anymore based on patterns.
It'll look at that data. So, and I'm just making this up, and maybe Matt can expand. Or say if you're a cell phone company, X number of calls to the support line within Y period
exactly
might mean that there's an 80%, like if you make 3 calls in 2 days, the likelihood of you canceling your service in X period of time is way higher.
Yep.
And so where these things matter is that information allows companies to be proactive.
Right.
And when it comes to building your business, it's cheaper to keep clients you already have than to find new ones. But
Absolutely.
but that doesn't always mean that those are the clients you want to keep. But statistically, that is less expensive.
And that's a fantastic example, because let's just use AT&T as an example. They have probably call centers with like thousands of people that take these phone calls, right? But they don't necessarily know that this person has called 3 times over a week or whatever. They've got to go out and query their databases and their call logs and all this information across millions of customers and thousands of employees and all these phone calls to then try and find the signal out of that noise, right? And I think with a lot of businesses, especially with customers that are canceling or customers are not happy, there are signals for this. For example, at Stackify, we just changed our merchant processing, and we were using Bank of America before. Well, we asked Bank of America for copies of our statements. That's probably a signal to them that we're probably going to cancel or we're shopping, And the key is for businesses like that to be able to know when those events are happening. And I think that's part of like what Bellwether does and other people that are using this type of machine learning and AI is looking for those signals. And then if you can identify those signals as a business, then you can say, okay, we're Bank of America. This client is probably highly likely to cancel at this time. What do we do about it? Or do we do anything about it?
Yeah. And I think that's the whole purpose, is because by the time they've already canceled, it's too late.
Yeah.
And, now that said, there's a huge amount of data that comes in from someone like a cell phone carrier. So they're a good candidate for AI. Some other things. So companies are really making huge investments in developing artificial intelligence. And there's a strong belief in the executive community that, that AI has the power to really change the face of a business. And I've said, hang on, our algorithm has just detected this is about the 1 millionth time I've said this on the podcast. Saving money is making money.
Yes.
And, you have to either sell more, spend less, preferably both. AI can do a lot of different things too, and trims the fat off of, like I said, it's so broad. People in the past have used data analysts, but as humans, we have a finite capacity to process the information, and you're better served to use the data analyst for what the AI could spit out than to have them try to fit it out. AI isn't a replacement for human intelligence. It's instead
it's a tool.
it needs to be a tool, right, to support what you have going on. And so IBM, as an example, IBM's made a lot of news because they're able to pretty accurately predict when their employees are about to quit.
What about Watson? They got Watson. Woo-hoo!
That's true.
IBM Watson.
Have they paid the royalty for your naming
Not
rights
yet?
We should send them. We should have our the Startup Hustle AI bot send.
Did I technically win Jeopardy?
Was that guy's name Watson?
Yeah, that was IBM Watson. I think I technically won Jeopardy.
Wait, what are you talking about? Did IBM Watson play Jeopardy and win?
Yeah.
Oh, like against people?
Yeah.
But that's not fair.
I think I technically won.
Okay.
Jeopardy. I'm going to say that for now on.
Master Watson, Jeopardy champion,
Yes.
Master Watson.
Breaker of chains.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh, never mind.
What are you talking?
First of
Are we
his
talking about
name.
Lord of the Rings? Oh, I see. I get it. So I mentioned the IBM example, and I've seen a lot of stuff about them. So they have hundreds of thousands of employees, and they apparently they have like a 98% accuracy or something crazy when it comes to knowing when they're going to churn.
Oh, I've seen their employees are going to quit.
Yeah.
I've seen I think there's a company that does this. Like it's a company, that's what they do. For example, if one of your employees goes and updates their LinkedIn profile, it's a signal.
Yeah.
Right?
And then,
things like that.
There's all these different things. And then actually, so back to AI, we've had a guest in here that Graham Dodge from Sick Weather, remember? And he was talking, so that when you see the weather, the flu maps on the Weather Channel, they're using AI and machine learning to figure that out. And so what do they do to do that? They use social signals.
Yep.
So they have figured out algorithms that say if X number of people I feel like shit today, that is a signal to pay attention, and that might be, that something's coming. Now, how does that affect business? And directly straight from what Graham was talking about. So some of the clients that would be interested in that info might be whoever makes like Robitussin, because typically these stores don't have a massive stockpile of NyQuil or whatever, or Robitussin. And when a ton of people get sick with something, if the product isn't there that they want to buy, it's a missed opportunity. And you look at like the surge nature of purchasing around events like that, kind of like alcohol sales here in Kansas City during the Chiefs Super Bowl run. A friend of mine told me that their sales are up significantly.
Yes.
Now,
well, think about like coronavirus in China. Yeah. If somebody like Sick Weather was doing work in China and monitoring those kind of signals in China, like this would be a interesting time for them. Yeah, and I'm fairly certain they could. Yeah. So, that's another example. So, you mentioned cognitive ability earlier, and, that's some definition around that is using algorithms to detect a pattern from vast volumes of data and interpret their meaning. Yeah, it's kind of a different kind of AI.
Yeah. So
it's less like it's less intelligence. It's more like pattern recognition and identifying what things are. I've seen some really cool examples before, like Microsoft was talking about. Let's say you're on a construction work site, and it's like many acres. You're building this giant thing, and somebody's like, "I need a jackhammer." You're like, "Where is the jackhammer?" No idea. Nobody knows. Yeah, right. But if you've got video cameras all over the site, the video cameers could tell you exactly where it's at. Yeah. How many hours does that save?
Well, and there's the same thing with a whole lot of different, that's computer vision.
Yeah, all the computer vision stuff. Super cool.
Computer vision's cool, man. It's part of what, does, self-driving cars.
It tells me when a package is delivered at my door. Because I have cameras, and the camera tells me oh, there's a package.
And it also does stuff like I have the Nest Cam, and it says there's a person.
Yep. Which is really cool.
Which is good, because that means the cat no longer sets off the notification, and it makes me look and say, "Why is someone in my living room?"
Yes.
But I mean, that's the struggle's real right there. So,
but those are little things that really help our life and change our lives. But think about the implications for those for security. Companies that are doing security, not just our own home security, but real important security.
Now, AI is always for quite a while, going to be the topic of good versus evil. And, now one of the things that's more along the lines of a case that isn't viewed favorably would be Cambridge Analytica. Right. And the last election, and you talk about all these things. So Facebook was, basically selling them data. Right. Now, Facebook knows a shitload about you guys.
They pretty much know who is primarily Republican, who is Democrat, stuff like that.
So based
on what you say, what you react to, the memes you post.
And so what they did with that is you got bundled into 3 different groups. You were a Republican, you were a Democrat, or you were
a swing voter.
You were a swing voter. So they took, let's just say 40-40 on Republican, Democrat. They just shoved you out to the side. You didn't matter because you were doing what you're going to do no matter what. Right. That 20% of voters that they were able to judge based on all these signals and data were they were able to be influenced. Sure. And they directly targeted them with specific ads and everything that continued to pepper the mental process of you see it enough, and they're showing it, and they knew exactly what to show you and when. Now, one of the things is people often say is, "Oh, I was talking about Snickers and then I saw it in my Facebook feed." Now okay. People think that your phone is listening to you.
I'm convinced of it.
I know, but most people are. Now, I'm not fully convinced of it. I'm willing to go either way, but according to some of the stuff that I've looked into and just watched, they're just literally that good at knowing what you want.
There's been a couple times I would talk to you about like some guy, like, "Oh, I know so-and-so." And the next thing I know, Facebook is recommending that I'm friends with that person.
Right. Right.
I'm like, what in the hell? What are the odds of this shit?
Yeah, and that there are, I know that's like I said, I'm not willing to go one way or the other on that because on some of it, it's uncanny. Now, we mentioned that the human mind can be a little flawed in its processing of data. I'll give you an example. All right, before you bought a car, some car in your life, you decided that's what you wanted, but you hadn't bought it yet. Did you notice that you just seemed to see that car like everywhere?
Oh, especially if you buy one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or same thing.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's an example. Like you see a ton of cars and they're not all the same one that you have, but all of a sudden you feel like, oh man, I see that
You
everywhere.
recognize them more.
So part of that flawed process is that recognition. Cause look, we're in noisy, busy worlds, and dude, you pass a lot of cars. They weren't all that same car, but you notice that.
Yep.
And it's sometimes that is the same way. Like you're talking about John Smith, and then he might have been in the recommendations.
Sure.
Now, who knows? Maybe they're listening. I turn Siri off on my phone, so I don't see that stuff ever. No, I really don't. Like, I don't see it the same way. I also unplugged all the Alexas in my house, which shows you how trusting I am of all that. I'm like, it's not listening to you, but yes, it is.
Probably the biggest AI thing that does affect a lot of us as just consumers is the advertisement side of this, right? And the companies are trying to do everything they can to advertise to just the right people to maximize their spend, which makes sense. And like for politics, we're always going to see this. There's no way they're ever going to prevent that. They can, if they want to go in and advertise to people like males this age that live in this city, that's primarily their audience or whatever, have these likes. They're always going to be able to do that.
That's the main value of the data that Facebook will sell.
Oh yeah.
And some of that's even all right. So if you found this podcast because you once saw an Instagram ad, we use their data to target you.
Oh,
no, but there's truth to that because, for example, we have Instagram ad that's got, I don't know, 10,000 likes on it or something. That's been shown to a lot of people, and it just says a podcast for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Now, if I just ran that in a general feed and didn't segment it, I would be wasting a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because like my wife wouldn't have ever clicked it, but we're able to show this to people that have, I don't know, man.
Certain interests.
Yeah, certain interests, whatever. And it does give us a lot of data back. Mainly that dudes click the link.
It's dude-centric.
I guess. So do you think that robots are going to take over the world with AI?
I think so. One of these days, you mentioned earlier, I think about self-driving cars. And I think that's probably the most mainstream and forward-facing thing that we're going to get. And that's some complicated shit.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I have a Tesla, and I think they're one of the people on the forefront of this type of technology. There's a lot of people that are working on all this stuff, and they're even doing stuff now, I think, where it'll recognize traffic cones, and then it'll show little images of traffic cones on my dash, when it shows like my car driving. But how they're going to do this for like rain and snow and say construction and, a ball bounces out into the road, like all that sort of stuff. And, the classic example of this is the, when the machines are in control and you're driving a car and the car has to decide, do I run into a crowd of people and kill somebody, or do I take the driver and drive the driver and kill the driver?
Yeah.
That's like that's like the classic like scenario of like morality, right? Like what does the machine do? Does it kill the driver or does it kill the innocent bystanders? But that's the world that we're eventually coming to.
I think what most people don't understand is that on a computation level, that arriving to that conclusion that quickly is really hard.
Yeah.
You're talking like split seconds. It's the same
crazy
thing. Like, so, does your car keep you in your lane?
It can. Yeah.
Yeah. So both of ours, like last night,
my Tesla saved my ass the other day.
By the way, my car has done that for me too.
I was at a stoplight and I was going to floor it because why not? It was fun. And there was a car next to me, like a big truck. So I couldn't see like the what would be the perpendicular, the lane from the right, coming across. And so I floored it and the car didn't like go. It was like going slow. I'm like, what the hell is it doing? And the next thing you know, a car pulled out in front of me.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, my car could see that there was a car coming from the right that was going to pull out in front of me, and it slowed me down, and I noticed it.
Yeah. So
I probably would have hit that car.
I have two instances with two different cars. So one, a Lexus, and it was a couple weeks ago, and I was just driving down a road. It was just one lane of traffic each way. I was going roughly the speed limit, probably a little over, but I didn't notice the car in front of me had stopped as abruptly as it had. And my entire console turned red, started squealing at me, and it definitely had already been hitting the brakes prior to me hitting the brakes. Now, what was that full AI? Well, as far as I was concerned, it was pretty damn intelligent to get me to stop and just start stopping for me. Now, I can't fully, I wasn't like, this would be a good time to test whether this works without me.
Yeah.
Another instance, so then the Range Rover, which I've been really impressed with the technology that they built into that. I was filling up gas, and it was a really busy gas station, and I went to back up. And it stopped me. It literally did stop the car and kind of did the same thing. And then a car drove by that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I have no idea how it saw it when I couldn't. But I mean, there's obviously sensors and stuff in there, but it did stop me.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes. And I probably would have hit that car.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, these are all examples of whatever you want to call it. AI, machine learning, algorithms, all of these things, just intelligence that's created within software that change. Like this is changing our day-to-day life.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Other things we mentioned Nest before. In a world filled of wasteful energy consumption, that's a great example of AI. If you turn stuff like that on in these smart thermometers, like they begin, because they have sensors in them too, and they know like when you're walking by, when you're around different stuff, and it might not seem like a big deal, but when you take whatever city you're in, if there's millions of people there and all of them have their heat up 1 degree higher than it needs to be, it's a significant amount of energy consumption.
Yep.
And that's exactly what that needs. That is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And one of the examples with that, I was a couple years ago, we left town for a week and didn't make any adjustments, and then like 36 hours later, I got an email that was like, "We've noticed you haven't been home, and we've turned your temperature down."
That's
I was like, "Okay, thank you. Like, I'm cool with that."
Yep.
Mainly just had forgot, was in a hurry.
Really cool stuff.
Do you have any? Plans for using AI or machine learning at Stackify?
We do.
Anything you can talk about?
We've built some different kinds of algorithms and stuff in the past, and it's definitely something we want to do a lot more of.
Sure.
A lot of it for us is either anomaly detection or correlation. Knowing that because that thing happened over there, it impacted this thing over here as well. So like correlation too.
We have quite a few machine learning developers at full scale.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them with far more experience than others. There's some interesting. I've learned that with machine learning and AI, that people use a wide variety of programming languages.
Yes.
One of the ones that's kind of giving a rebirth to the C++ developer is computer vision.
Yes. Speed matters.
It runs really lightweight. And that's the thing, is especially with something out in the field. And the person who really pointed that out to me was Davion Ross at Shot Tracker.
Right.
He was like, "We got a sensor in a basketball, man."
Yes.
Like I don't have a whole lot of, I don't have a whole lot of computing power in this thing.
Speed matters.
So that rather than something like Python, when using computer vision, doesn't run fast enough. It takes too much resources.
Yeah.
Now, in certain cases, Python will win, because its ability to automate certain things might outclass C++, and you might also have a bigger CPU to run it with. So it doesn't
depends
matter
on what you're doing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I do think that one thing I did notice, and just like a general observation, is when I went to TechCrunch last year, 80% of anyone that I talked to had somewhere in their elevator pitch our machine learning algorithm. Yeah. So I think there's a lot, and I don't buy that all of those people were actually doing stuff. Some of it is a little oversold. Like, I'll give you an example, GigaBook. After you've used GigaBook for a couple of days, it starts putting your most popular services first. So you don't have to, so it by default, if you have a service called A, B, and C, at first, A is always going to be in the top of the list just because it's sorted alphabetically, it makes it easier. And then after a few days of it noticing and just a very small amount of input, it will just put C on top if that's where your most common thing is. And that's just a simple act of like, well, I have this test. I say, is this annoying?
Right.
And if the C name is your most popular service, theoretically, you would have to select the drop down and pick C every time manually. And that's just annoying.
Yeah.
That is technically very basic machine learning.
Yeah. They're just simple algorithms.
Yeah.
Simple algorithms.
I had already probably quit school by the time that when you were in school, did you get a lot of algorithm stuff? Because I didn't. I mean, we did like algebra. You did a lot of like formulas and stuff like that, but I don't ever remember in school like really.
Most people who would study computer science would take classes in algorithms and stuff, but I don't think I had any classes about that. I had statistics, but not algorithms.
Yeah, is statistics considered algorithms?
No,
do you get to finally find a use for those Greek symbols that I learned in my econ class?
I don't remember any of it.
Dude, I came out of that class. I literally asked the professor, and this was technically a top 10 business school. He was like, you seem disinterested. And I said, I don't see where I'm going to use any of this in life. Now, I'd already been in the professional world for 10 years. I had yet to use a Greek symbol at any point. So he was like, yeah, I get it. You have to understand that our job here is to give you a well-rounded view of all forms of business. Yes. And I was like, okay, I get that. But you ask me why I seem disinterested. That's why.
Yeah.
Now, that said, some of the terms we use, what's the Delta, Matt?
Delta Airlines?
Yeah. Should we do a Greek symbols quiz? Because everyone can see the symbol we're talking about, right?
Beta is the only one I know.
Well, my machine learning algorithm has detected that it's time for us to wrap up this episode of Startup Hustle, which was brought to you by Fullscale.io. Make sure you check us out. Go to YouTube. Got some new camera angles that make sure that Watson's full facial expressions are detectable. So later, when we integrate our computer learning, our computer vision AI bot, it's going to be able to predict what you say before you say it. Hopefully soon.
Can it do a montage of all the times I picked my nose?
It's got a lot of data to process on that one. Fortunately,
I'm just kidding.
Fortunately, the developers have reached back and they said that despite a remarkably large sample size of you picking your nose, they have enough data to proceed with some learning. That said, see you next time, Matt.